So you have to engage that diversity that's in your organization to bring out those perspectives and get those different ideas so that you can be innovative because you're trying to do things differently.
Welcome to this new installment of the Ghost Founder Shorts, today with James McKim. And James, you're here today to talk to us about diversity as a competitive advantage, not just a feel-good factor.
So when we say that phrase diversity, we really are encompassing diversity, equity, and inclusion. And belonging is a new concept that's also coming there, because diversity, equity, and inclusion are all toward creating an environment and a culture where people feel like they can belong. And we know from research that when people feel like they can belong, they're going to be their authentic selves and be the most productive as individuals. So from an organizational perspective, when we say that, use the term organizational performance, what are we talking about? We're talking about based on the organizational assessment framework for improving performance that was developed by Lusanis and a number of other folks. We're talking about looking at effectiveness of an organization, efficiency in an organization, relevance for an organization, and finally, what most people focus on is the financial performance of the organization. So with organizational performance, we're looking at all four of those, and diversity, equity, and inclusion has a role to play in each of those. Now, McKinsey and PricewaterhouseCoopers and a number of the major consulting firms have done research that has shown that organizations that have leadership, a diverse leadership, will outperform, or more likely is the term they use, the statistical term, are more likely to outperform their peers. For racial and ethnic diversity, those organizations outperform their peers by about 21%. For gender diversity, the difference is about 24%. And that's globally. The data shows that organizations financially will perform better, but also in terms of innovation, ideation, there's research that shows from the World Economic Forum that diverse organizations also produce more new ideas. And why is that? Because the more diverse the people are in the organization, the more perspectives they bring. And remember, diversity we're defining as that broad definition, not just black or white or gender, but the characteristics that make up an individual. So the more experiences that are brought to bear, the more ideas that are going to flow. And this is where it's not just about the diversity. It's not just about having a number of different people with diverse backgrounds, but they have to be included. They have to feel like they can contribute, and they have to be encouraged. Inclusion, active engagement with diversity. So you have to engage that diversity that's in your organization to bring out those perspectives and get those different ideas so that you can be innovative because you're trying to do things differently. And continuous improvement as an approach is always important. And bringing that diversity and that innovation is what makes organizations be able to have that competitive advantage over their clients or their competition, and also to reach different markets. Think about this. If your market is only the predominant race in your country, how many people are you leaving out?
Sure.
Are you going to reach your true market potential? Probably not. So from just a market perspective, you want to have this diversity and this diverse notion, because then you're going to attract and achieve a greater market penetration. So from the financial performance perspective, from the innovation perspective, from an efficiency perspective, if you want to be efficient, you need to have ideas on how to improve your efficiency. And that's going to come from the people in the trenches, because they know where the problems are, right? Efficiency and effectiveness, both, right? To be more effective, you need to have a great understanding of your clients. And if your client base or customer base is a broad customer base, we just talked about market share, you have to have people in the organization who can understand those people in a very visceral sense, not just as an intellectual sense, but in a visceral sense. And if you want to connect with those people, if you want your organization to connect with that broad, diverse customer base or audience base, well, guess what? There's something called an affinity bias. An affinity bias is a bias that says we like to deal with, and we prefer to deal with people who are like us. So if your organization doesn't have people who are like your customers or your clients, guess what? They are not going to connect with you as well as if you had people in your organization who did look like them, who were like them. So there's so many different facets to this, from the efficiency, effectiveness, relevance, and the financial performance perspectives, that this is where diversity, equity, inclusion really creates for each organization a competitive advantage.
Wonderful, James. Thank you so much. I think before we started recording, we mentioned that you're writing a book. Do you want to talk about your book a little bit?
Sure. The book is about all of this that we've just been talking about, right? How does diversity, equity, and inclusion play into organizational performance? As I was doing this work, I was trying to, as I said, I'm a reader. So I was trying to find books that really talked about this juxtaposition of diversity, equity, and inclusion with organizational performance. So there are plenty of books about diversity, equity, and inclusion. There are plenty of books about organizational performance, or many, but I couldn't find anything that mixed the two. So I said, well, I'm going to write that book.
And so if somebody listens to this and wants to reach out to you, how would they get in touch?
They can reach out and they can find us find me through organizationalignition.com, or they can send me an email at james.mckim@organizationalignition.com, and I'll respond. Love to hear from folks. So
perfect. And then I think I found you also quite active on LinkedIn, so that might be a possible other avenue.
Yes, I'm on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on Instagram. Try to leverage all the social media.
Thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Levison. Great questions and great conversation, and looking forward to doing more.
Hey, thanks for sticking around. Ghost Founder Shorts is an open format, so if you want to be the expert on our next clip, or if you want to refer somebody to us, please don't hesitate. Shoot us an email at hello@ghostfounder.com.